spoilers for episode 4 of The Last of Us. We open on Ellie staring at her reflection in a dirty mirror. She lifts up the gun she's hiding from Joel, lets it sit in her hands, and then pretends to shoot. This will be important later. This scene is a great example of show, don't tell. Ellie has a background education in gun safety. Though elementary, she knows to keep her finger off of the trigger. And to fully unload a gun, you need to remove the bullet in the chamber. And while she seems familiar with the concepts, practically, she seems shaky having a gun in her hand, like a kid playing with a toy. Episode 4 of The Last of Us set out to do something that's very important for this story, the development of Ellie and Joel's relationship. While other important plot points were introduced, I think that the relationship and dynamic shift between Ellie and Joel in this episode was substantial. Ellie has 2 important items that are highlighted in her possession in the first 5 minutes of this episode: the gun and her book of puns.
It doesn't matter how much you push the envelope, it'll still be stationary. No pun intended. Volume 2 by Will Livingston.
Now, what if we look at these 2 items as representing core fundamental parts of Ellie's personality? The gun, the violent world she grew up in, and the book, highlighting the fact that she's just a kid finding humor in stupid puns. As the episode goes on, the relationship develops. They venture into the woods, accompanied by a beautiful soundtrack, and we see something come back. First comes the book of puns. Ellie asks,
Joe!
What?
Can I ask you a serious question?
Yeah.
Why did the Scarecrow get an award?
Then comes the gun. And finally, Joel shows up.
I know what it's like. First time that you hurt someone like that.
To understand Joel and Ellie's relationship, we need to also understand Joel. What if we take that same metaphor, the gun and the book, and apply it to his life? First, the gun once again, representing the violence of the world that he exists in. After losing Sarah and 20 years of kill or be killed, Joel has kind of lost touch with his humanity, existing in a consistent place of self-preservation. He didn't stop for that person to help because he's been on both sides of the equation. It's a world where empathy is weaponized against people to take advantage of them, and Joel's part of that world. He's lost his book of puns. But at least he had Tess, until he didn't, and she asked him to do one more thing for her.
This is real. Josh is fucking real.
No, I can't. They won't take her. They're not gonna take her.
They will, because you'll convince them. Yes, you will. I never ask you for anything, not to feel the way I felt, not to, you shut the fuck up, because I don't have time. This is your chance. You get her there.
That's why he's choosing to see this through, because it was Tess's last wish. But episode 4 is when Joel stops acting just for Tess and starts acting also for Ellie.
Those people you said. There's no way anyone knows we're here, right?
No one's gonna find us.
There's multiple reasons I wanted to make this video essay, but the main one was this final scene. So many different components of this scene came together wonderfully, but what I want to focus on is the cinematography. Sometimes subtle, it can heavily influence the way we interpret a scene, a lot like body language. And in this case, literally body language. This over-the-shoulder shot of Joel and Ellie in sleeping bags was used earlier in the forest, and comes back now. They highlight how open each character is to the conversation, Joel facing away and Ellie facing towards him. In the forest, Ellie was the first person to initiate a conversation, staring up at the sky. She tried making a joke, before eventually opening up and sharing her anxiety about being found by those other bad people Joel had mentioned. But this time Joel initiates the conversation.
Hey,
Yeah?
when we were talking about hurting people, what did you mean it wasn't your first time?
Ellie literally turns away before saying,
I don't want to talk about it.
Something to notice about this is Ellie very rarely closes off the conversation. Joel defaults to facing away from her, but when she turns away, she rolls onto her back. And then Joel fully turns to face Ellie, not a glance over the shoulder.
You don't have to.
He reaches out.
I'm just saying, it isn't fair. Your age.
The relationship is building, but then Ellie turns back to face Joel and says something that's a sore point for him.
The reason I asked whether you'd hear the glass or not is because I've noticed you don't hear too well from your right side. Is it because you were shot there?
Probably more from shooting. So if you want to keep your hair and you stick to that knife.
Once again, we see the return of the gun, or the violent world Joel has been forced to become part of. But then,
Joel? Did you know diarrhea is hereditary?
What?
Yeah. It runs in your genes.
the book comes back. And we see Joel laugh for the first time since he lost Sarah. This is it. This is the point of the episode. To establish a relationship. And they did a damn good job. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more video essays, I plan on releasing more about Last of Us as the show continues.